Hey, what is up YouTube, and welcome to my $30 budget Albaz deck profile for the April 2022 format. Albaz Strike is easily one of the greatest structure decks in the history of the game, and if you buy 3 of them, you're able to build a pretty competent deck. And today I'm going to show you my budget build, for which you only need to buy 3 copies of the structure deck and nothing else. I think this deck can compete pretty well on a local level, which is very good for just $30. If you guys want to see more deck profiles, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment down below what decks you guys would like to see next. And let's get started with the deck profile. First, I played 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz. This is our main monster. It's basically a mini super poly, because when this card is summoned, you can discard a card and then fusion summon using this card and one monster your opponent controls. Next, I played Triple Albion. This card is very good for consistency and recycling your resources. When this card is in your hand or graveyard, its name becomes Fallen of Albaz. Once per turn, when this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard or Fallen of Albaz and then put this card on the bottom of the deck. And if you put this card from your hand to the bottom of the deck, you also get to draw a card. So this card is basically just a free upstart goblin and also a foolish burial. Plus it's really good to send to the graveyard with branded fusion. Next is Triple Spring and Skit. This is easily one of the best cards in the entire deck, because this card can be a starter or an extender. If you don't already have a way to fusion summon, you can just normal summon this and then get branded fusion. And if you already have a way to get a fusion monster on the field, then you can just special summon this and then search a trap card to get an extra interruption. Next, Triple Keeper of Dragon Magic, because you want to play as many ways as possible to get into your branded fusion. I forgot to mention, when you search with Spring and Skit, you also have to put a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. When you summon Keeper of Dragon Magic, you can discard a card to search a branded fusion, and you can also reveal one of your fusion monsters in the extra deck and special summon back a Fallen of Albaz from the graveyard in face down defense position. And also both of these effects lock you into fusion monsters from the extra deck, which just doesn't matter in this deck because you only play fusions. Next, I played double Tri-Brigade Mercurier. This card basically becomes a hand trap while you control a fusion monster. You can discard it to negate a monster effect, and when this card is banished, you can search Fallen of Albaz or any monster that lists Fallen of Albaz in its text from deck to hand. And then I also decided to play 1 Golden Sword Soul. This card's okay. If they declare an attack, you can special this from the hand and negate the attack. And if you control a fusion monster, it also destroys their attacking monster. And when another monster is banished, you can also banish this card from the graveyard and then special summon a light spellcaster type monster from hand or graveyard with attack equal to its defense. That effect almost never comes up, but for example, if you've already Veilered them, you can revive back the Veiler for free for an extra body. Next, I play 1 Artifact Scythe. This card is very easy to get to the graveyard because you can just send it with branded fusion. And then we also play 3 copies of Back to the Front, which can then special summon this card back from the graveyard and lock your opponent out of the extra deck for a turn. Next, I played Triple Effect Veiler and Triple Ghost Ogre. This structure deck also gives you a lot of amazing staples and hand traps, so I don't really see a reason why not to play them. They help you have a chance against the more powerful decks going second. That is it for the monsters, and then for the spells, I play Triple Pot of Extravagance. In this deck, you play 3 copies of all of the important fusion monsters in the extra deck, so it doesn't really matter what you banish. Then I played Triple Branded Fusion. This is the best card in the entire deck. It's basically Shadow Fusion with no activation condition. You can just fuse from the deck for free. You want to see this card every single game, so that's why you play a lot of ways to search it. Next, Double Branded Lost. This card's also pretty good. When you fusion summon, your opponent can't respond, so they can't ash your branded fusion. And once per turn, when you fusion summon, you can add a Fallen of Albaz from deck to hand, or any monster that lists Fallen of Albaz in its text. Next, 1 Gold Sarcophagus. This card's here so you can banish Tri-Brigade Mercurier, and when this card gets banished, you get the free search. Next, 1 Called by the Grave. This card's really good against hand traps, and it protects your branded fusion from getting ashed. That is it for the spells, and for the traps, I play 1 Branded Retribution, 1 Branded Sword, and 1 Judgment of the Branded. Branded Retribution is basically just a solemn judgment, but you have to either shuffle a fusion monster you control back into the deck, or 2 fusion monsters in your graveyard back into the deck. With Branded Sword, you can banish any number of branded spells or traps from the graveyard, and then special summon that many tokens, which actually have 2500 attack. Both of these you can also banish from the graveyard. Branded Retribution then adds a branded spell or trap that is banished back to your hand, and Branded Sword adds a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists Fallen of Albaz from banished back to hand. With Judgment of the Branded, you can target a fusion monster you control and then destroy all monsters your opponent controls who have equal or more attack than your monster. And what's also really important about this card is that at the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard by the effect of Fallen of Albaz, it can reset itself back to the field, which means you can get a very easy interruption by using Albion to send this card to the graveyard. Next, Triple Back to the Front. This card is mainly for reviving Scythe, but it's also just a good card in general. And the last 2 cards in the deck are Double Warning Point. These are just some generic interruptions. You can also play There Can Be Only One or Dimensional Barrier in these slots. And that is it for the main deck. Then for the extra deck, I played Triple Mirror Jade. This is the boss monster of this deck. This card can, as a quick effect, send a fusion monster from the extra deck to the graveyard and banish a monster on the field field, but then it can't use this effect on the next turn. And if your opponent removes a fusion monster from your field, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls at the end of the turn. Next, Triple Rebellion. When this card is summoned, you can discard a card and then fusion summon using monsters you control in your graveyard or that are banished by shuffling them back into the deck. Next, Triple Fusion Albion. When this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon again by banishing monsters from your hand, field or graveyard as fusion materials. And if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand during the end phase. Next, Triple Ash Dragon. This card gains 100 attack for each level of its fusion materials. And in the end phase, if this card was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can either add to your hand or special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists Fallen of Albaz in its text from the deck. And the last 3 cards in the extra deck are double Glory Dragon and 1 Iron Dash Dragon. Glory Dragon can be destroyed by battle, and when you control this fusion summoned card, your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with monster effects. This card also has a similar effect as the previous 2 cards. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can in the end phase add to your hand or special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a Tri-Brigade monster from deck. Iron Dash Dragon has the same effect, but you can either get a Fallen of Albaz or a Sword Soul monster, and once per turn you can move this card to one of your main monster zones and then destroy all face-up cards in this card column. That is it for the extra deck, and now I will show you the basic combo. For this combo you only need a branded fusion plus any other card to discard. So you use branded fusion to make a Lubellion by sending a Fallen of Albaz and an Albion to the graveyard. Then Lubellion is going to activate, discard the random card and shuffle itself back into the deck. Plus shuffle back the Fallen of Albaz to special summon Mirror Jade. So this is now 1 interruption, and then you can use Albion in the graveyard to put itself back on the bottom of the deck and send a Judgment of the Branded to the graveyard. And in the end phase, Judgment of the Branded is going to reset itself to the field because Albion counts as Fallen of Albaz while it's in the graveyard. If you also have a Spriggan Skid, for example, you can just special summon it and then search, for example, a Retribution, which will also give you an extra interruption. Or you can just normal summon it at the start of the combo and search your Branded Lost. And then when you fusion summon, you can add a Mercurier to your hand with Branded Lost, which will then also give you a monster negate by discarding itself. So you have a lot of different options in this deck. That is it for my deck profile. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment down below what decks you guys would like to see next. And if you guys would like to change anything about my deck list, thank you so much for watching again. Have a great day and I hope to see you soon.